Hey there, thanks so much for watching. I'm Corbin Duncan with Sharper Mind Training. This is Alex here. We're just going to talk a little bit about Alex's experience working with a sports psychologist as a fencer, which not all sports psychologists know about fencing, and apparently her experience was pretty good, so I wanted to get a bit of her take on that. Thanks for checking this out. Alex, thanks so much for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
So when I was chatting with you a minute ago, getting my stuff checked, you mentioned that you'd worked with a sports psychologist when you were a fencer, or previously in your fencing career, I
Yes.
should say, and it really helped you a lot. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was lucky. My sports psychologist actually fenced for Penn State at like a club level. So he didn't understand like the intensity as much as some do, but he understood the idea. He also was coaching or training my old coach, who was a world champion in vet, so it helped. And honestly, I thought it was the best thing for me because not only did they teach me how to breathe, how to calm myself down, and also accept winning and losing, and what to focus on, and how I can be present in the moment just from breathing and accepting, just being accepting of what was going on.
Yeah, it sounds like you covered some of what, in a way, you might think of as the basics, but they can be really hard to enact with a really intense pressure of a fencing competition going on.
Yes, and I never fenced at super high level, but I think that tactics apply to any level of fencing. If you can't learn how to steadily breathe and how to relax, which is something I never was good at. I was sitting there training, we'd hook up to these machine things to see my pulse, see how I was breathing, and we'd have like strategies and the sweet spot is what he called it, to just have that constant, just be status. And it sounds so zen, but I will say I went from throwing masks and swearing and being an overall terrible person to deal with to I have my moments, but I feel that I'm much more pleasant just from learning how to just take a step back.
Yeah, so what I hear when I think about, or what I think when I hear about things like that, fencers who kind of get this overwhelmed reaction is, like you in the past, and everyone else who does that knows it's not what you want to be doing, but you weren't taught how to do anything different, right? You weren't given the tools and the strategies that are so necessary. Like I knew from a very young time or early time as a fencer, pause, take a step back, breathe. And I see coaches who don't teach their fencers that, or fencers who don't necessarily have that, and I think of it as you need to have the skills in order to be able to act the way you want to act.
Exactly. Saying it is one thing, but being able to show, okay, how do I breathe? Like we all do it, but how do we breathe in a way that helps slow down your heart rate, help you see more clearly? It's something that, coaches don't always teach you. They just tell you to breathe. Okay, well,
right.
How do I do that?
Great idea in theory.
Exactly. So the idea is there, but it's just, I think, having someone external removed from like what we do sometimes to an extent helps with that because they can focus on just that task.
Right. I mean, I think the stuff that I talk about, a lot of fencing coaches, especially those who fence at a high level, they understand, they know it, but they're running a club. They're teaching 20 lessons a night.
Yeah.
They don't have the capacity to go over all of this stuff in depth, which is, I think, why people have had such a positive reaction to the kind of one-on-one work I offer.
Exactly. It's having someone like you who's able to help teach that frame of things, and you have the high-level experience, you've been to different events, that you understand both sides of it. I think that's what more fencers and just more people need, and we need that more at our club levels, and I think it helps a lot, especially at competitive clubs.
Yeah, thank you. I think to that point, you mentioned, sort of across the range of level that you might be at, it's helpful. And yeah, I mean, I work with clients, right now I talked to one of my clients a minute ago who's finished with her competition. She's like, yep, next is the World Cup in Paris. And, great. And then I've got clients who are like, hey, I'm just not trying to DFL, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be able to enjoy fencing and not be so stressed at every competition that I have a panic attack.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, not having a panic attack that's what we want for competitions. We want to enjoy it.
Yeah, and my goal is now just to, I still am competitive, or will be competitive. I want to have fun, and that's the most important thing. And I think for me, my sports psychologist helped me a lot in just remembering, like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, if you're not having fun, what are you doing? Like, we do this sport because we love it. Yeah, the wins are great. Everyone wants to win.
Right.
But I want to be known as the athlete who not just has a great track record with successes, I also want to be successful, here too, in my brain, where I can do what I need to do on both sides, on the strip and in my head.
Right. I think of it as, at a competition, results are third priority.
Yes.
First priority is acting in line with your values, right? It's like being the person you want to be. Second priority is performing well. And then third priority is the one you can control the least, is your results.
Yeah.
It's great. Nobody doesn't want to get a good result, but it's not the most important thing when you show up.
And I think sometimes the results, not always, but sometimes those results come from those first two priorities. Everything kind of lines up together. Sometimes you have a great day and it's because, hey, I kept my mental head together. I was able to get, perform what I wanted on the strip, and hey, the results show. But it also, sometimes that doesn't happen, and you have to learn, okay, well, the results might not be there, but my head is there.
A big thing that I try to come back to is there are wins even if your result isn't good. Like, you have to find something to take away. And I've been able to, like, I've had moments when I looked back at competitions that I was very unhappy with, and I realized actually 98% of it was really good right up until that part of the end.
Yeah.
That I didn't like, where I lost.
For me, it was just, I remember my first couple sessions after working with my sports psychologist, it was, hey, I didn't throw my mask today.
Right.
And it's so stupid, but it's like, hey, I didn't look like a fool today, and I did something better than last time.
Something that I think it's so easy to lose sight of in a competitive environment, but so important to remember, is you got to judge progress based on you.
Yes.
Right? You got to start from where you're at. And I could say, I want to have XYZ level of success. Kat Holmes is a good friend of mine. I haven't been to the Olympics twice, much less
Yeah.
That's not relevant to me. It's, hey, can I make it one round farther than where I made it before? Or even, can I do a little better in my process than I did before? So I want to take 1 second, go back to your experience with a sports psychologist. And if I heard you right, it sounds like there was a combination of, one, skills practice, right? Two, sort of like conceptual understanding of what are some of the pieces that go into this. And then third, kind of like perspective on, what constitutes success, or how do I look at my own fencing in progress? Is that kind of a fair summary of what you were getting?
Yeah, it depended, based on what was going on. For, like, if I had a competition that session beforehand would mostly be about, okay, well, how are we preparing? What are our thoughts going into it? Lots more positive visualization and a lot more practice on the deep breathing. It was after competition, he'd give me this little checklist that would say, how was my breathing during this competition, before, during, and after the competition? How did I handle X, Y, Z emotions? And it's like a little self-check.
Yeah, no, I love this kind of concrete thing. It's so good. This is, you're probably familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, right? So it's that kind of framework of using concrete actions to change our thought patterns.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of it. I think it's super valuable, especially in, like, performance-based contexts like this, where it can be really nebulous what we're working on without those concrete things to return to.
Exactly.
So I'm a huge proponent of skills practice, like breathing. I have a few different breathing skills that I really focus on. And then things like, I have a perform perfect checklist, just what I call it.
Yeah.
Going into competitions, to just say, hey, is everything in the right place? And if not, can I accept that and be okay with it? I consider it more of a mindfulness exercise than anything.
Exactly, right? And that's what we're taught too. So it's funny, there's a lot more in line than,
more similar than different.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
and for
absolutely.
us, the positive visualization, sitting there, lying down, relaxing, control your breathing, and also envisioning, what do you want?
Yeah.
And, watch yourself take that barrier, watch yourself in these moments and envision this. And it's something that I always thought was stupid. I was like, oh, I don't like this. This is weird.
Right, everything is dumb until you try it and it works, right?
And it's still sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so weird still, but I see the value of it, and it's like you have to break down those weird little barriers that we all have sometimes and go, just give it a try. I mean, it does help, and if you would have interviewed me when I first saw my sports site, I would have said, oh, this is silly. It changed my mind a lot about the game. I'm very lucky I did it. I'm very glad just to have any kind of sports training to help make me someone who people want to be around.
Absolutely.
Is really the name of the game.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's not just about your performance, it's about how you show up in this sport. It's about you enjoy it. It's about so much more. So, just one last question to kind of wrap up. How long did you end up working with this sports psychologist?
So I worked with him for almost 2 years, and if I wouldn't have moved, I would have continued to go with him and trained with him. But I take those skills that I still have my workbook. I still have those checklists. When I was competing, I was still using them and applying what he taught me. And I still hear everything he says whenever I give a negative thing. I still hear him say, okay, now let's rewind a little. Let's talk about this and unravel why you feel this way. So I would say for just under 2 years, I really felt like it stuck with me that even going to a few sessions I think is more beneficial than not even starting anything.
Right. That's what I really want for my clients is, this is a secret, right? But to do better in fencing, yes, but then to take those skills to other places in life.
Exactly. And it helps you. I think sports can correlate to life skills so well.
So much.
That if you learn it here and what you're doing is definitely going to help any fencer, young or old, just achieve so much more in their life, which sounds so tacky, but it's true. It's so true.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got there, so, keep doing what you're doing too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking a minute to chat.
Yeah, thank you.
And hopefully the audio came out okay.
It'll be great. Hey, thank you.
Good talking to you.
Good talking to you too. Thanks.
Amazing.